Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I want to start things off a little bit different because our intro's getting old and, let's be honest, kind of boring. So I'd like you all to suggest in the comments down below any other way that we can open the podcast without just popping a bunch of information about the podcast and other things that I'm promoting at the time. Do you guys want something personal at the beginning, or do you like the way it is? Let me know in the comments down below. Alright, with that out of the way, today's episode is a couple of stories from the Malicious Compliance subreddit that are both focused on Karens. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Jimmy Ricard. You want to cancel your service, Karen? Okay, you get no internet for the next 2+ years. This was a couple years ago, so the quotes are rephrased, not verbatim. Background: I worked for an internet service provider in Australia called iNet. We were, at the time, one of the biggest providers, but crucially, we did not own our own ADSL1 network, and we only on-sold the ADSL1 service from the biggest provider in the country, Telstra. We also had a policy that an ongoing issue should have a case owner, and I was the case owner for this, which is why I got multiple calls about it. Act 1. A wild Karen appears. I get a call from a Karen. While doing an ID check, she provides me her age, and of course, she's in her 40s. Her internet went down. I look at the account and I can see she's got on-sold Telstra service. One thing catches my eye: although there are thousands of exchanges, central places your connection goes to, shared by multiple suburbs in the country, and you can't possibly know them all, I know the one she is on, because a few weeks earlier, a friend was considering buying a house in the area, and I looked at this one and found there are no free ports, and thus it is impossible to get a new service connected. The waiting list for a new connection was 2.5 years at least. So I asked her to do the troubleshooting steps, and she says she does, but I suspect she's just telling me she is doing it to make me go away. Whatever, nothing I can do about that. We exhaust all the troubleshooting, and I tell her that there appears to be a line fault. I can send out a technician, but it will take 3 to 5 working days. And if there is actually nothing wrong with that line, she will be charged $199 plus $40 for every 15 minutes of work to cover the technician's time. Numbers might be wrong, it was a while back, but it was at least $200. I play her the disclaimer that outlines this, and she says, yeah, I accept, on the recording. I lodge a fault. Act 2, the fault in our loop. She calls after 2 days, sounding annoyed things are still offline. I tell her it hasn't been 5 days. She hangs up. On the 5th day, I get the technician's report saying, no fault found. Next day she calls. So my connection is still offline. It's been 5 days. What's happening? Well, the technician attended the fault and his report says, no fault found. What? That's BS. The internet is clearly down and you need to fix it. I don't doubt that the internet is offline, but the fault does not appear to lie within our area of responsibility. I would suggest you check your local equipment. That's not true. My son is an IT guy and the router is brand new. Okay, well, I can't speak for the state of your equipment, but our equipment appears to be in working order. Incidentally, I just want to make sure to give you a heads up that we will be placing an incorrect call-out fee on your next invoice. You're lying to me. I didn't see no technicians, and now you want to charge me over $200 based on your lies? I won't let that happen. I assure you, the technician attended the reported fault. However, you did not see them because they probably only went to the exchange, which is approximately 4 kilometers away from you. You're lying to me. I'm not paying the fee. What can I do now? Well, if you're adamant that your equipment is not at fault, your only option is to file another fault and send the tech out again. It is fairly rare, but not impossible, that technician was wrong. And then you'll pretend you send the tech to charge me another incorrect call-out fee. We will most definitely send out another tech, but yes, it is very likely to come back as another NFF. And in that case, a further fee is likely. That's BS. I've been with you for 5+ years, and this is how you treat me? Cancel my service now. I will go to your competitors. They'll want my money. Ma'am, the exchange you're connected to has only Telstra ports and is at 100% utilization, If I cancel your service, you will lose your spot. It is unlikely any of our competitors will be able to provide you any service at all. You should just transfer your service to the next provider. So-called churn, this will allow her to keep her spot. Don't you tell me what to do, you lying sack of crap. You will cancel my service now, or I will do everything in my power to have you fired. Now I'm pissed off myself. It's a crap situation, but there's no need to take it out on me. I'm trying to help her, and that's her response? Engage malicious compliance. Okay, ma'am, hold on for a moment. I'm canceling your service. Okay, cancellation processed. Let me just remind you that the incorrect callout fee is still due. You won't see a cent of that. Noted, but the amount is over the collection threshold, so we will send you to collections. Click. Act 3, The Joys of the Waiting List. About a month later, I get a request to transfer to me. It's Karen. I take a moment to catch up on her file, and the service is cancelled and fee invoiced. I run a quick service qualification on her line, and I can see that our service, so-called codes, have dropped off, and there are no other codes on her line. She did not manage to get connected with anyone. Hello, I think I spoke to you last time. Yes, you did. My internet is still down, and you're still charging me for the fee. I need you to get rid of it. I cannot do that. The charge is valid. Well, I can't pay it. You ruined my business. I was operating an e-commerce business, and that won't be possible anytime soon. Running a business over a residential connection is a breach of customer service agreement, but I let that slide. I'm sorry for your predicament, but the fee stands. I'll do you a deal. If you reconnect my service, I will pay the fee. I can probably sign you up again, even though you're behind on payment, but I was not lying to you when I told you that there are no ports on your exchange. It is very unlikely you would get a port. They are all in use. Did you try with our competitors as you said you would? I did. None of them would even try signing me up because they told me they couldn't provide a service. We are in the same situation. Why can't you just give me back my old port? Because it was given to the first person on the waiting list. And how long does the waiting list take? Last I checked, more than 2 years. This is ridiculous. I'm going to TIO, the Telecommunications Industry Ombudsman. You may do so, as is your right, but to be very clear, we will substantiate the validity of our fee. Whatever. Click. Conclusion, she did in fact file a complaint with TIO, and I handed her case over to a TIO complaint specialist. I made sure to point out that she was breaching TOS with business over residential service. TIO obviously ruled in our favor, and we were allowed to send her to actual collections. Before I left the company, about 1.5 years later, I caught up on her file, and she had filed a loss of business claim, which was summarily closed because residential connections have no service level agreement. Last contact was her speaking to our credit team, asking them to make sure they mark her debt as paid with our collections people and make sure this reflected on her credit rating. There were still no codes on her line. It is quite unlikely she got any reasonably priced service connected for at least 2 years, realistically longer as demand only ever went up. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a deleted account. It says, love it, especially the complaint at the end. One of the times I miss working in customer service and retail. So just to be clear, your complaint is that I did what you asked me to do? Fantastic work, well done. OP responded to this one and said, haha, yes. For the company, it was bad to be taken to TIO, but for me personally, it was excellent because the issue got taken out of my hands and given to a TIO specialist. I washed my hands of you, Karen, and I knew I had dotted my I's and crossed my T's, so nothing could come back down to me. Another commenter down below called Dingus Mick, I'm not gonna say that. Is Telstra no longer mandated to increase the service in cases like this? It used to be the case that if a service area was full, the government required them to improve the service to the area at no cost to the customers, because they really should be a publicly owned entity. OP responded and said, I've never heard about Telstra being mandated to provide internet service. Telstra has an obligation to provide telephone to every Australian under Universal Service Obligation provisions of Telecommunications, Consumer Protection and Service Standards Act 1999, but this law makes no mention of internet service. Australian government does not consider internet as an essential service. So this story is a few years old, and I wonder if that's changed by now, especially when COVID pushed everybody indoors and so many people were working from home. It would seem to me like internet really should be considered an essential service now. There were a bunch of people in the comments for this one saying that the tech should have at least gone to the house to test the signal from there. But if the technician was able to go to that service location and test the service going from that node into the customer's house to the first termination point and there was no issue, then I can see why they just said that everything's fine on their end. This story comes to us from Puzzle-Headed Dirt 78. Don't be Karen if you don't want to look like Karen. So I remembered a story of Malicious Compliance as recounted to me by a good friend of mine. My friend is a hairdresser by trade and works at a very upscale salon. I go to her myself and can attest to her being amazing. Anyway, this salon had one customer who had been passed around from hairdresser to hairdresser, bullying every single one she saw. She made count 'em, three separate hairdressers cry. The only reason she was still a client of the salon was that her mom was friends with the owner. She was a relatively young gal, maybe in her mid-20s, with very long bottle blonde hair, past her waist, that she insisted to everyone who wasn't her hairdresser was her natural color. It was very much not. She went to the salon religiously, so no one would ever find out her secret shame. She blamed her hairdresser for all of her hair problems, many of which were the result of heavy bleaching and how much heat she used on her hair and her refusal to follow care instructions, and was never satisfied with anything. So everything shuts down in our state and she screams at my friend to come do her hair for her because she can't have her boyfriend finding out she's not a natural blonde. Anyway, my friend refuses, and despite Karen's threats, she knows that the salon owner knows she's too darn good at her job and has too loyal a customer base to fire her, so she thinks no more of it until a few months later when the salon reopens. Lo and behold, who should appear in the appointment book but Karen? So the day arrives and Karen shows up with her hair dyed jet black, and not very well dyed either. My friend is shocked because Karen's always made such a big deal about being a blonde, and how even though she gets her hair bleached, she really is a natural blonde, and just enhancing her color a little. My friend asks Karen what they were doing that day, and Karen demands to be made blonde again. My friend is like, okay, that's going to be a process, because this bee has used black box dye, which is really hard to get out. For those of you who don't know, getting dyed dark hair to be blonde is usually something done in stages, so the hair has a chance to recover a bit between bleaching sessions to avoid breakage. Karen is like, no, I'm gonna be blonde when I leave here today, or I'm telling your boss that you see clients at home sometimes and getting you fired. My friend sometimes does friends' hair at home for a lower price because she's a sweetheart, which her boss is fine with. And it's your fault I had to dye my own hair this color because my boyfriend would have seen my roots if I hadn't done something. My friend is tired of Karen's BS at this point, but it's a slow day and she has time. She explains to Karen that if she takes her blonde all in one go, her hair will be fried and that she'll likely end up having to lose a lot of length. Karen scoffs and rolls her eyes and is like, that's never happened before, and my hair's so healthy, I'm sure it'll be fine if you don't screw it up. Friend recommends at least using Olaplex, a product that helps prevent damage. Karen says she thinks it's a scam to overcharge customers and won't pay for it. Cue Malicious Compliance. Friend is like, okay, but make several coworkers be witnesses that this is what Karen is asking for after friend explained the risks. Friend, meanwhile, has formulated a fiendish scheme. After that, friend goes through the whole process of bleaching Karen's hair. She has to do it like 4 times or something, and she checks with Karen after each one that she's absolutely sure she has to be all the way back to champagne blonde by the end of the day. She recommends stopping at some of the nice auburn or strawberry blonde shades in between for now, but Karen insists her boyfriend hates her hair anything but her natural blonde. My friend knows she will refuse because when has a Karen ever decided at the 11th hour to be reasonable? With each bleaching, there's more breakage, and Karen's hair feels worse. My friend knows Karen's hair won't survive this, but Karen absolutely refuses to let her stop. Eventually, at long last, my friend manages to get Karen's hair to the required level, and so she starts to rinse Karen's hair. It starts breaking off in her hand. The length of her hair is melted, fried, and destroyed. My friend gets the bleach out and immediately conditions the ever-loving F out of it while explaining to Karen that exactly what my friend said would happen has happened. Karen says she must be exaggerating and insists it's fine. Friend wraps what's left of Karen's hair in a towel and takes her back over to her station where she shows Karen the problem. Everything past a little beyond chin length is pretty much gone. Karen shrieks and accuses my friend of everything under the sun. Incompetence, operating without a license. She most definitely has her license. A personal vendetta, etc., etc. My friend eventually calms her down and tells her she'll do her best to cut it so it looks decent for free. She even has the perfect cut in mind. It'll suit Karen perfectly. My friend gives Karen the sharpest, most beautifully cut angled bob you've ever seen. I've seen it thanks to my friend showing me Karen's Insta, that despite the incredible precision and skill showcased, is unequivocally and perfectly the Karen. Blown out and styled to, "Can I speak to the manager perfection?" Karen starts crying because the cut makes her look 40. She wants to speak to the manager. My friend gets the manager and Karen throws a fit, threatening to sue, and how dare they, and how his employee did this to mock her, and so on and so forth, while my friend stands there looking completely innocent. The boss then asks friend her side of the story, and the other hairdressers back her up, and that the cut is just her trying to make the best of what's left of her hair. Even the boss by now is sick of Karen's BS, and Karen is forced to pay the huge sum of money owed for how much time was spent bleaching her hair, much of which is now gone, and leaves swearing never to come back. Her boyfriend, a cop, calls up later and threatens to assault my friend for doing that to Karen's hair against his wishes. And my friend tells him if he tries anything, she's going to tell his superiors and every news agency in the city. Nothing further happens, but he eventually dumps Karen because he doesn't like girls with short hair. OP added a quick edit down at the bottom. It says, "Edit, unfortunately, Karen's Karenness cannot be attributed to her boyfriend's influence. She was like that long before they got together. She had been going to that salon since she was a teenager. The older stylist who had been there a while told my friend stories of her antics, and had always been a terror. I think this is more a case of birds of a feather than of a girl scared into acting unreasonable." Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Satanic Pastor's Wife. It says, "I love that giving someone a specific haircut can serve as such an eloquent insult now. Truly a testament to the magical powers of cultural signifiers." Another commenter down below called Bull Better Talk said, "Too bad he dumped her. They sounded like a perfectly matched couple." This was an interesting one. Interesting because a lot of people in the comments say that there was an issue here with the cop boyfriend and that he might have been having an influence on her, but I don't feel like it's that way, especially with OP's description of Karen coming in since they were a teenager and being a gigantic pain in the butt all the way back then. I also can't help but think in this case though, if OP was hiding that they weren't a natural blonde from their boyfriend, did the carpet not match the drapes? Or were they just really good at keeping the carpet trimmed? If you enjoyed daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and give us a 5-star rating on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.